All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell. Um, we don't really have much to discuss about SummerSlam or WWE as of yet. We haven't decided
Um,
if we were going to actually go into talking about that. Right now, it's probably going to be AEW, NWA, and Impact for not now,
well,
maybe ROH eventually when they get a deal, but I don't know
um,
about WWE yet.
another thing that's not too, that we don't really have a lot to talk about is Ric Flair's last match, which happened this past Sunday. But, you know, it's Ric Flair's last match. And, yeah, there's not a lot to talk about with that. He ended his career his way. Granted, I think he should have done it sooner than 73 years old, but regardless. So yeah, NWA Impact. First up, we will start with NWA. Kenzie Page beats Casey Lennox to start off an empowered episode of NWA Power. Then we get some explanation from Father James Mitchell on why he recruited Maxie Impaler. He recruited her because he wanted someone in the women's division that could possibly dethrone Camille. So who better than Maxie Impaler? Um, Back to in-ring action. We have a number one contenders match between Taya Valkyrie and Kylan King to determine who will face Camille on night one of NWA 74 for the NWA Women's title. That is Taya Valkyrie. She beats Kylan King. Um, then we get some information, which is interesting, as Nick Aldis has been kind of trash talking and saying all this stuff. He's like, oh, I know people. There's some powers that be or whatever. People don't want me as the NWA World Champion again, and it's like, well, that's fine because I know that I'm like too good for the company or whatever. Like, when is it? He seemingly blackballed himself from the NWA. Therefore, the main event of night two at NWA 74 for the World Heavyweight title will now be Trevor Murdoch versus the television champion Tyrus. Does that potentially mean that Tyrus will forfeit his television championship in favor of that Lucky Seven rule? Because for those that don't know, when you are the television champion and you defend your title 7 times successfully, you get a championship opportunity at the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So that could potentially be Tyrus, like the. I'm not entirely sure how it works. I've never really seen it like used, but like it's needless to say that um, I'm pretty sure Ricky Starks, when he had the title, he was close to that lucky seven, but he didn't quite get there before Zicky Dice dethroned him. So either way, we'll see how that happens for NWA 74. But Medusa has an announcement, and she makes the announcement of the NWA Women's Television Championship. So another championship in the women's division. That's uh,
I feel like a lot of companies are going that kind of route with the secondary women's title. Hey, maybe
it
WWE, maybe
adds more.
WWE, maybe it's time to take notice.
Yeah, I mean, because it adds more competition in the women's division for one, and two, it's actually a good thing because you get fresh storylines with this new championship in the women's division. I mean, to be fair, WWE has two women's titles as well, but it's for two different brands. Maybe I guess technically you could say that the 24/7 title is a women's title at this point, but at the same time, it's like, no, it's more of an intergender championship if you really think about it.
I kind of hope
But
that Triple H gets rid of that title, to be honest with you.
that would be nice. But we'll have to wait and see what happens under Triple H's control. Then we get back to the NWA, the tag team titles on the line. The Commonwealth Connection versus the Dirty Sexy Boys. Commonwealth Connection beat the Dirty Sexy Boys to retain. And then in the main event of that Empowered episode, Camille beats Chelsea Green to retain her NWA Women's title. It's safe to say that at this point, Camille could very well just be that one-time NWA Women's Champion. But who's to say that Taya Valkyrie doesn't become the NWA Women's Champion? That would be interesting. That is NWA talk. Now we get on to Impact. We start off the night with Eddie Edwards of Honor No More versus Ace Austin of the Bullet Club. Eddie Edwards beats Ace Austin. Then we go to Trey Miguel and Laredo Kid beating Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice. Not much to talk about there. It's Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice. I mean, on BTI, I thought the match was probably going to happen like actually on Impact, but it happened on BTI. I talked about it last week. Bhupinder Gujjar beats Vincent, as Brian Myers had said that, like, oh hey, you want a digital media title shot? Beat Vincent and you'll get it. So Bhupinder beat Vincent on BTI due to the distraction caused by Heath's music. Then after the match, Heath comes out to hit Vincent with a wake-up call. And we get backstage. Bhupinder's like, hey man, what do I have to do? I beat Vincent, now give me a title shot. And Brian Myers is like, there's somebody else that has a title shot. And it's Black Taurus. So yeah, he's gonna get his title shot next week. You have to wait in line. So yes, next week Brian Myers faces Black Taurus for the digital media title. Then we get to in-ring action, which this one was a bit weird because like they had Tasha Steelz on commentary, and even then these two women aren't even really on the active roster, so it's kind of like but either way, Tiffany Nieves beats Jada Stone. Her hand was on the rope though, and then after the match, she said she was going to be here last week. She is here. Killer Kelly makes her presence felt in the Impact Zone and beats down Nieves and Stone. Then more in-ring action as Josh Alexander taps out Shira. Honor No More is backstage attempting to reason with Scott D'Amore, but it goes nowhere. And after the match with Josh Alexander and Shira, Raj Singh wants justice for what happened to Shira, but justice has been served to Raj in the form of Sami Callihan, who claims that both Steve Macklin and Moose have a date with the Death Machine.
You got a date.
You have a date with the Death Machine.
Yes.
Mia Yim's backstage interview with GM Miller is seemingly interrupted by a broadcast glitch, which was caused by Honor No More.
Yeah, that was a little
odd. Which then we find out that at Emergence it will be Honor No More versus Bullet Club 5-on-5. If Honor No More win, everyone gets their title shots, but if they lose, Honor No More disbands forever. So we'll have to see what happens at Emergence between Honor No More and Bullet Club. And even then, Emergence seems like a pretty stacked card right now. I mean, we already have Josh Alexander versus Alex Shelley for the world title. We have Jordan Grace and Mia Yim for the Knockouts title. Knockouts Tag Team title action as Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie team up to take on Vexed, the team of Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green. We have that AAA attraction match between Bandito and Ray Horace. And so far as I know, Speedball Mike Bailey doesn't have a challenger for the X Division title. As far as I know, they might announce it tomorrow night on Impact. So we'll have to see. But speaking of tomorrow night on Impact, we have some matches announced. I already mentioned Black Taurus versus Brian Myers for the digital media title. There will also be Deonna Purrazzo versus Rosemary, Gazelle Shaw versus Masha Slamovich. It's safe to say Gazelle Shaw has her date with death in the form of Masha Slamovich. Masha's gonna kill her. Also, PCO versus Doc Gallows in a Derby City street fight. And in the main event, in his Impact debut, Kushida goes one-on-one with Rich Swann and beats Rich Swann with that hoverboard lock that he is oh so famous for. So that is NWA and Impact talk for the week. We take it over to Jason for AEW.
Yeah, starting off the night pretty hot. You know, the AEW definitely certainly likes to start off the night with a lot of a lot of title matches. Well, they did it yet again here. Jon Moxley puts his interim heavyweight title on the line against Roosh, the two-time former ROH World Champion himself. We know about Roosh. We got to see him, face off in his AEW debut against Penta El Ciro Miedo and lost, and won against Penta. Penta lost to Roosh, but this match was certainly interesting. If there's anything I found out about this match with Jon Moxley, he certainly likes the blade for no apparent reason.
It's every match at this point now that Moxley's in. He just digs out the razor blade and just...
Yeah, he's gonna... I claimed that he wanted to be the white New Jack, but unfortunately he's not that at all.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, but...
I even told Jason outside of the show, unless he actually murders somebody in the ring, then I will call Jon Moxley the white New Jack.
But as to no real surprise, Jon Moxley does beat Roosh to retain the AEW interim world title, but to big surprise, Jericho Appreciation Society Jericho himself comes down to demand a rematch for the AEW world title on August 10th.
Quake by the Lake.
Yes, Quake by the Lake in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Which is my birthday, by the way.
Yes.
So,
and we will not.
Happy birthday to me.
So we will probably have a show that week, but we won't be talking right away. We won't be watching it live. We will be in Buffalo for the concert, the stadium tour that same day. But Moxley, for very interesting, I can say you're one of the greatest of all times, but I don't want to face the Wizard Chris Jericho. I don't want to face Le Champion. I want Chris Jericho. I want the Lionheart, the one that I grew up with watching.
The lone survivor, what was it? The last survivor of the Heart Dungeon.
Yeah. Of Lionheart Chris Jericho he wants him August 10th, where Chris Jericho is like, you're on. You're going to get that kind of Chris Jericho. The thing I found out is do not challenge Chris Jericho to certain personalities because he will accept them bring out that personality back. So, will it be enough to get the victory against Jon Moxley? I have no idea. I don't think it will be. Then, next week I don't see Chris Jericho beating Jon Moxley. It'd be nice to see him, become a two-time AEW World Heavyweight Champion, but I just don't think it's the right time to see him win it back.
Don't be surprised if he brings back his persona from his days in Mexico. I forgot his name when he was in Mexico, but do not be surprised if he brings it. Corazon de Leon. Don't be surprised if he brings back Corazon de Leon.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been rumored multiple different times. You
we
want
now
it.
have them.
We wanted them. They finally have unveiled the new AEW Trios Tag Team Titles. And there will be a tournament where the inaugural champions will be crowned at All Out. If you see all these trios, and there's a lot of great ones right now. I mean, you got the best friends in Orange Cassidy. You have Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh. You have the House of Black. You have Penta. I'll say you have Death Triangle. You have Jericho Appreciation Society. You have a few others there too. You got a lot of trios. Oh, the Undisputed Elite.
Or even really just the Elite in general.
So, there's a lot of trios that could be going after those tag team titles. And honestly, it makes the most sense for AEW to have titles like that. And it makes you beg the question, how come those weren't already a thing to begin with?
Yeah. Well, see,
how come it had to take 3 years for AEW to finally unveil the trios tag team titles?
Well, see, that's another thing, too. It makes perfect sense for AEW to have 6-man tag team titles because Ring of Honor already has 6-man tag team titles. So why not let AEW join the trend?
Right, exactly. That's true.
And no, I'm not talking about Matt Taven. Follow the trend.
But yeah, so that's what's gonna be happening at All Out. At least confirmed that we're gonna get crown new champions. As far as matches that are gonna be happening at All Out, I'm sure it's gonna start happening by this coming episode of Dynamite, August 3rd's edition of Dynamite. We'll probably start getting matches heading into All Out because you literally have 1 month away until the pay-per-view, so I would assume that we are going to be getting matches very shortly. So going forward, it was an interesting one. So the turn of events for this are very interesting. Ricky Starks and Danhausen face off for the AEW Championship. Danhausen has some good moves, but let's just be honest here. Ricky Starks basically squashed him.
That Northern Light suplex from Danhausen, though, was really well executed. Danhausen, I feel like, is a very underrated guy for just how well he can work in the ring. Because if not for the fact that he's mainly a comedy act, he can go in the ring, man.
Right.
Without a doubt. I feel like his best, if you want to watch a Danhausen match for pure in-ring work, watch any of his indie matches. Just without a doubt, plain and simple, Danhausen, when he wants to, can work in the ring really well.
Yeah, and Ricky Starks does, steam over Danhausen. Pulls out the mic, is like, well, this time I do want to have another challenger. Bring him out. Well,
be careful what you wish for there,
you might be surprised because it is Hook!
They have sent Hook.
And
in his Dynamite debut, by the way.
Yes.
Or at least his Dynamite in-ring debut.
So, I will say, I really do think that Hook, made his father proud because he beat Ricky Starks to become the new FTW champion. They did go back and forth. Tell you what, Ricky Starks has a very devastating spear. It's almost as good as the Edge's spear, where he kind of jumps out of nowhere and freaking gets you shoulder into the gut there. So he really does have a nice looking spear, but I'm sure Taz is very proud of his son, that he's following in his father's footsteps and won the FTW championship. Deservedly so. I think that title is really getting some prestige, which is kind of sad because I think it's getting more so prestige than the TNT championship right now. That's why I don't get why AEW can't just make it an official championship. Who's to say? Nobody's claimed it as an official championship, so I think AEW should make it the AEW FTW World Championship. I get it. It's, it has that world championship aspect to it, but I think it's still something that can boost people up. Make it an
Yeah,
official title AEW. I think that would be good to have. I get it. You have the TNT championship. Then you have the, a world title that. Then you have all that. I get it. It would be a little overboard. But let me tell you something. There's already a lot of championships in AEW, but
yeah.
it makes sense because then you have more ways to tell stories with those championships and stuff like that. So, um, of course, the All Atlantic Championship feels more like the NXT UK, championship, like where it would only really be defended on the Indies more than it would be defended in WWE.
Yeah,
So that's what it kind of feels like there. Feels like something like that. But again, congratulations to Hook. You officially won your first singles championship in AEW, but I'm sure this is not going to be the last championship you're going to win. Because I think there's a bright future for Hook, and I would assume that Tony Khan has great, big plans for him going forward.
that
Um,
would be nice.
so speaking of that, Ricky Starks feels like it's his time. He doesn't want to wait anymore to get, boosted up to, more bigger and better, bigger things. But unfortunately, he gets beaten down by Powerhouse Hobbs, thus ending their pairing, and Starks has now been kicked out of Team Taz, which is very sad. Ricky Starks, I'm hoping, is going to end up having a great babyface run in the company, but I think his work was best as a heel. But let me tell you something. I think that you're gonna at least see some kind of rivalry. This honestly, to me, almost made no sense because I really did think that you were gonna see Team Taz versus Swerve and Glory go for the tag team titles. Now that Team Taz is no longer together as a tag team, it's like, so are they not competing for the tag team titles? Are they like? I'm very curious to know what's going to happen for the storytelling for the AEW World Tag Team titles
Yeah,
because right
because
now Swerve and Our Glory don't have opponents unless you somehow have them go after FTR, which I have been speaking about multiple different times. They are currently the number one contender. They've been on a roll.
they've
Have them
been the
go.
number one contenders for a
I
while
get
too.
it. It's tough because you have Swerve and Our Glory, but we said it before and I'll say it again. FTR wins, then you see Swerve in Our Glory disband, and you see them feuding with each other. Because Swerve, I could see honestly turning heel. Of course, Keith Lee, I just do not. Unless they somehow swerve us even more and it ends up having Keith Lee turning heel instead of Swerve Strickland. That would be something to see. But, yeah. Going forward, Sammy Guevara and Dante Martin. Now, let me tell you something. Dante Martin's one hell of an athlete. I don't understand why he lost to Sammy Guevara in this match. I really didn't understand it. Dante Martin is way too big of a star to have him just, oh, let's just have you lose. You're going to go out there and lose. You're going to go out there and lose. You're going to go out there and lose until your brother comes back. No, 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 no. You had such a great run with Dante Martin where he had these amazing matches, had the momentum on his side, and then all of a sudden now he's taking L's and you're derailing his momentum even more. Like you just say you're making it seem like he can't be anything unless he's teamed up with his brother, and I don't think that's right at all. Um, so unfortunately, Sammy Guevara does beat Dante Martin. Then Jungle Boy, man, tell you what, it might need to take that mic away from him because he might just get a little fire. He might be seeing a little too much pizzazz coming from his mouth there as he's
No,
taking
you know what?
shots at Christian Cage on the
Keep giving
mic.
him the mic because he is on fire with the mic.
Basically, he called him a pussy, he called him a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, but Christian Cage vows to prey on Jungle Boy's weakness. Um, I'm ready. I'm ready to see what kind of match that these two are going to have because I would assume that the payoff is going to be at the pay-per-view with between Christian Cage and Jungle Boy. I like it. Bring something different. Bring something new for Christian Cage going forward. Um, I'm hoping after this little one-on-one type of thing where Luchasaurus is like, hey, I'm going to sit in the background and let y'all fight. I'm hoping that there's going to be like more of a payoff where Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus are going to get back into like the tag team picture kind of thing. But who's to say if Luchasaurus doesn't end up ultimately screwing over Jungle Boy in this match, aligns himself back up with Christian Cage.
But see, that wouldn't make a lot of sense because, like, then why did uh, Luchasaurus like go join back up with Jungle Boy in the first place? Unless he was manipulating Jungle Boy to think that he
He
was
could be,
back.
because hence he's still in all black, by the way, so who really knows? Um, heh, heh. Luchasaurus to the House of Black confirmed? I'm just kidding.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, Young Bucks seem to be interested in AEW Trios tournament, but who will their partner be? I'm highly speculating that Kenny Omega, and Marty already talked to me about this right before we started filming. Who's to say that they don't come out and that Kenny Omega comes out for the first time in a very long time? I think it's been like damn near almost a year since he's been out,
yeah, just
honestly.
about.
So it's about time for him to come back from his injury woes. I tell you what, he better be 100% healthy by this time, because he was out with a lot. He had the whiplash effects and all the other
Yeah,
stuff. So honestly,
the man had vertigo.
yeah, I was about to say he had very, very bad vertigo. He was dealing with it in wrestling matches. I mean, when you're the best bout machine of all of professional wrestling, I can
Imagine
understand.
wrestling a match and it feels like the world is like just spinning in circles. So,
I'm sure he's
yeah.
going to come back better than ever, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, you have the Undisputed Elite, but you know what? I could honestly see Kenny Omega bringing back to like the Bullet Club persona with the Young Bucks.
You mean the cleaner?
Yeah, the
I mean,
cleaner.
he technically did bring it back during his AEW World Championship
Because
run.
if that is okay, now this is high spec. This is, since we have some time here, this is some discussion we need to see. So you got the Undisputed Elite, and that's mostly Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. They could very well go after the Trios Tag Team titles. And who knows, you could see them against Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Of course, Brandon Cutler is like, well, I could be there. Shut up, Brandon. Um, but let me tell you something. This is some high speculation. If that was to be the case, and say Young Bucks split off from Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, and end up joining with Kenny Omega, what would their trio tag team name be? That's what I want to know,
Just
because
the Elite. It would just be straight up the Elite. And then the Undisputed Elite would be its own thing.
I mean that's probably true. It'd be very interesting to see when this tournament, because I would assume that the tournament bracket and all that other stuff is going to get announced very, very soon, probably within you know later tonight, probably getting announced. The tournament bracket, and then the first match will be you know either that day or starting Rampage. Who really knows? But it makes you wonder if they would purposely have the Undisputed Elite against the Elite as part of one of the matches, or you see them face off against each other. I think you're going to see one on one side and one on the other side. And you're going to see them face off for the Trios Tag Team title. That would be a hell of a payoff right there.
That would be
That would
interesting.
be that would bring. I think they would sell
Who's to
tickets.
say that
No,
wouldn't be the main
that
event?
yes, it would be
Like,
probably in the main event,
well,
and it
not
would
like the
boost.
main event, but like, who's to say it wouldn't be the finals for the trios titles
Yeah, oh yeah, I can
that
see
would
that.
culminate
And
at All
let me tell you
Out?
something. If that was to happen, you can definitely see Chicago getting sold out
Yeah,
again for the second time in a row. That Chicago would be sold out for a pay-per-view. AEW pay-per-view two times in a row in Chicago being sold out. I could see it happening because that match in itself would be enough to sell it out. But yeah, it makes you wonder if that's the plan. Well, I guess we'll find out. But don't be shocked if it is, because what it says is the Undisputed Elite are back. This is the best time to bring back Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
So, Strickland is going up in a handicap match. Keith Lee is banned from ringside. Tony Nese is Mark Sterling, face off against Swerve Strickland, who, smart Mark Sterling is trying to get Swerve
Trying to
Strickland
stay out of the match as much as possible.
He's trying to get him off the roster and away from AEW itself. Yes, he's trying to be away from the match as much as possible, but to no surprise, Swerve Strickland actually does beat Tony Nese and Mark Sterling by himself. But Josh Woods beats down Keith Lee backstage and holds up the one title. Meanwhile, Tony Nese beats down Swerve in the ring.
And holds up the other half.
Holds up the other half. Now, we might have challengers for the tag team titles because we thought, oh, well, they don't really have anybody. And I totally forgot about this. Not going to lie. Then I wrote it down. Could we see Woods and Nese team up to take on Swerve and Glory for the tag team titles? If it ends up happening, that makes sense because Tony Nese, Swerve and Glory have been having ends. It would have made a little bit more sense with Smart Mark Sterling because of everything that's going on. I get it.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like Smart Mark Sterling is not really like... He's more of the mouthpiece in a sense for Tony Nese. Plus, he's, his manager. So,
I could honestly see them facing off against each other. I mean, it'd be interesting to see because these two men have not, teamed up before, but it had no chemistry. But could we see it at All Out? Probably not. Will we see it soon? Yeah, I think so. Probably somehow on Rampage. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, but yeah, we'll definitely get a tag team title match very soon between these two tag teams. Malachi Black vows to make Miro sit at a black throne. Meanwhile, Brody King wants Darby in a coffin match. Thoughts? I'm ready for Malachi and Miro soon. I mean, if it happens at All Out, it happens All Out. But Brody King and Darby, I would think I feel like you would have to give Brody King the win here, but Darby beating Brody King in a coffin match, I guess makes sense. I don't know. This one's a tough one to tell who could win between both men.
Yeah, I mean, something tells me though that Darby would find a way to win another coffin match, but I would not be surprised if they decided to have Brody King be like the ultimate unlikely winner.
Probably. I mean, now if it is Darby that ends up putting him in the coffin, can we see another coffin drop on top of the coffin?
I don't know, because the last time it almost like it could have killed him, Darby. So I don't think he wants to experience that again. So it's safe to say coffin drop through a coffin, probably not going to happen again. That was just a one-time thing.
Right. So probably won't happen, but if it does, it would be cool to see again. But Thunder Rosa, Mio Yamashita did beat Thunder Rosa at Japan to get this title shot.
TJPW, yeah.
So then they face off on AEW Fight for the Fallen.
For the AEW title.
For the title. And this time Thunder Rosa beats Mio Yamashita as to no surprise.
I will say though, during that match, I was actually very impressed with Yamashita.
Yeah, I was about to say, honestly, these two women actually put on a really good match. Um, I mean, I'm not trying to like really crap on the women's division, but it's sometimes not the greatest like matches in the world to see. I mean, I do want to give it props. I mean, there are a lot of them that fight their asses off, but then you put up certain like women that aren't the greatest in the ring together, and it's just
Yeah,
like,
they have no chemistry.
and it's like no chemistry, and there's wrestling at this point, and it's just like you're there like, when is this gonna end? Type of thing. But
That's another thing too. A lot of times with women's matches, it almost seems like they're trying to rush to the finish.
yeah, kind of, because they're trying to make sure there's enough time for all the other matches that happen. So
Which, if that's the case, then they really should you know, have a certain they should really make sure that these guys in their matches don't go over their allotted time, or just whatever they need to do to make sure that the show flows consistently, and there's nothing that feels like super rushed or whatever.
right,
But I mean, at the end of the day, it is live television, so
it is. um, so Brian Danielson comes back
in the main
from
event,
his um, head injury and faces off against Daniel Garcia. Now, Daniel Garcia has been on one hell of a tear. He's another rising star in the company for AEW. And I tell you what, if you told me that Daniel Garcia would face off against Brian Danielson and beat him, I would call you a liar. But no,
but
he
that's
actually
exactly what
he
happened.
beat the shit out of Brian
Well,
Danielson. These two men had an all-out brawl where they beat the living crap out of each other.
see, here's the thing too. Technically, Daniel Garcia didn't uh, beat Brian
Yeah,
Danielson.
Brian Danielson passed out.
Brian Danielson passed out. He did not give up. He did not lose via pinfall or whatever. So in a sense, it's a great way to keep Danielson protected.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's like he also technically
But
took a loss.
he did have some assistance from Jake Hager in that match,
Yes.
which is sad. But yes, Daniel Garcia does make Brian Danielson pass out. Didn't pin, no pin, no submit. Just, I mean, well, he was in a submission, but he made him pass out, which is kind of weird because he wasn't bleeding or anything. He kind of just like,
Yeah.
kind of like fake passing out, kind of like to protect him because I'm sure he wasn't like 100%, 100%. In that match, he probably had to do something to make sure that he was super protected in that match. The one thing that I wish it didn't happen in that match that did was the spot on the exposed concrete, even though I think he turned his head kind of protect, um, like land on his like chest more than the actual
Well,
exposed
wait. You
concrete.
you mentioned that there wasn't any blood on him. Yes, there actually was.
Oh, on Brian Danielson? Yeah, I know there
But
was. That's
but
true.
to be fair, it's not it's not the same kind of level of bloodshed.
From Steve Austin
Yes.
against Bret Hart, yeah.
That finish also made a lot of sense too, because they played it up that, oh, he passed out from too much blood loss, not from the pain that he was in from being in the sharpshooter.
Right, exactly. So,
Danielson's finish, it was just kind of like, oh, we need him to pass out just to you know. And even then, I feel like that match was kind of rushed to a finish also.
it kind of was. It felt like it because I saw it. It's like when he just passed, I was like, okay, this is it, really.
So
But yeah, sometimes it happens like that. But what can you do? So that's AEW Dynamite. We go on to Rampage. You have Orange Cassidy, best friends, against Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh. Um, you know, it was an all right, decent match. I mean, I really did think that it was going to be probably Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh that got the win, but it didn't happen. Orange Cassidy and the best friends beat Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh. And afterwards, Singh beats down Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends. And afterwards, we finally get a returning Wardlow after all of the things he claimed about wanting to make the TNT title better and go up against people. Comes up and stares all of them down afterwards. What does this mean?
It means Wardlow is hungry for challengers, and he may be looking in the direction of Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh. Definitely not Sanjay, because Sanjay...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I could see him going up against Satnam Singh. It would be interesting to see him go after the TNT title, but Jay Lethal, I mean, he already did have his opportunity, but who's to say he couldn't have another opportunity against the War Dog himself? So, I'm sure that means he wants some other challengers, but who knows? Ethan Page beats Leon Ruffin. Do we really have to talk much about that match?
No.
No. Still hard to believe that Leon Ruff, of course he's Ruffin in the AEW, but when he was Leon Ruff, he was a former NXT North American champion. Kind of hard to believe that that's happened because ever since he's gone to AEW, he's been nothing but loss machine.
Yeah, he proving his worth as a jobber.
But if there's anybody that's from a former NXT guy that's actually seeming like he's getting the light of day in AEW, it's Cole Carter. Because QT actually asked Cole Carter if he wants to join a factory. Thoughts on that one? Do you think he will, or do you think he won't?
No. Well, see, that's a tough one because, I feel like if Cole Carter were to align himself with the factory, it might give him, but at the same time, it's look at all the other guys in the factory. They're not doing a damn thing. They're prominently used on Dark and Dark Elevation, which those programs are absolutely meaningless.
If you think about it, Cole Carter kind of is too, so who really knows?
But at the same time, it's you also saw this play out on Rampage. So it's at least that's something for them as opposed to
True. I know. I think Rampage is kind of like that show where stars that have kind of progressed through Dark and Dark Elevation end up going on there to at least get some TV time.
I mean, Marina Shafir was on Rampage, and she had that challenge against. She challenged for Jade Cargill's TBS title. So, Rampage, in a sense, is the next step after Dark and Dark Elevation. You start on Dark and Dark Elevation, then you graduate to Rampage, and then if you're good enough, you eventually make your Dynamite debut.
Right. Yeah, so, I think that's a good, aspect of that. It kind of seems like it, but
in a sense, that's how you work your way up in AEW. But at the same time, I look at it as why does it have to be like that? And even then, we've mentioned a lot on the show, is why does the rankings still apply on Dark and Dark Elevation?
Yeah, I just don't understand that.
I can understand it if it's somebody that's brand new in the company and you're having them work their way up the rankings to eventually get to a Dynamite or Rampage thing, and then say they challenge for a title. But at the same time, it's this doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't, but I mean, I guess it's a way to see some new, fresh faces almost every single week on Dynamite, which is all right because a lot of times you see these promotions it's the same 5 or 6 guys every single week, and that's what they roll with. It gets a little too much. At least with AEW, you see fresh faces almost every single week,
right?
And that's what brings a freshness to AEW that I like. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think AEW or WWE is starting to get into a direction where it's going to be better, but there's still
take time.
There's still those faces that they're gonna rely on. You're gonna see way too often, more than not, because Raw 3 hours.
Yeah.
Of course you're gonna see a lot of the same people on there to bring up the show.
Well, that's another thing too.
as well too. So
that's another thing too. It's gonna take time before we really see major changes to the brand of WWE overall.
Right.
So
Tiger style. Lee Moriarty faces off against Matt Sydal, the Third Eye. And surprisingly, Lee Moriarty is getting some very impressive wins so far. He actually beats Matt Sydal. Stokely Hathaway offers up his card.
Before we get into that, though, it's safe to say that Lee Moriarty's dark side basically is helping him get these wins.
Yeah.
So
this is a good thing for Lee Moriarty if he wants to really progress up in the rankings and get a future title shot, because I think he's very well deserving of such. Who knows? Could be going up against Wardlow for the TNT title very soon. Who knows? But Stokely Hathaway offers up his card to him, and he actually takes it this time. What do you think that means? Do you think
I think it's safe to say that Lee Moriarty has found himself a new manager in Stokely Hathaway, and who better? I mean, look at what Stokely is doing for Jade Cargo and the Baddies.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. So
see, before we get into that, also, it's safe to say that Stokely is a better fit for Jade than Smart Mark Sterling ever was.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Like, that pairing just didn't really make a lot of sense, anyways. So, easily Stokely Hathaway a much better fit for Jade Cargill as a manager than Smart Mark Sterling ever was.
I agree. But yeah, it just means bigger and better things, that he's gonna have somebody that can shape him up and help him be a megastar. So speaking of somebody that has turned himself into being a megastar, which honestly I will say this now, AEW so far has been progressing their young talent very freaking well right now. Because if you want to do anything to be able to be successful in the future, it's you progress your young guys to get into like a stardom kind of star level early. And that man is definitely Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
Says he can actually beat Chris Jericho. Watch what you say there, buddy, because
Jericho might just throw a fireball in your face for that statement. And you know why he can do that? Because he's a wizard.
And will actually put his title shot on the line.
Yeah, Jericho will put his title shot on the line.
And they will face off next week. Thoughts?
Tomorrow night. Tonight on Dynamite.
Yeah, tonight on Dynamite, Chris Jericho and Wheeler Yuta. If Chris Jericho wins, he'll keep his title shot. If Wheeler Yuta wins, he gets the title shot against Jon Moxley.
Imagine though if Yuta were to become a double champion.
I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening.
And even then, why would they be promoting Lionheart Chris Jericho so much if Jericho wasn't going to win that match?
That's why I don't get why this match is even happening to begin with. Because, let me tell you something. Why I say that is because Chris Jericho is a big household name. And against, Jon Moxley, that's going to sell tickets for Minneapolis, Minnesota, quick by the lake. If you end up having it as Wheeler Yuta, not saying that, there's anything bad with Wheeler Yuta, because he can have a really good match against Jon Moxley. It just makes no sense to me for a world title opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, Wheeler Yuta could eventually get to that level of being a world champion, but right now you have him as your pure champion for ROH. Not saying that he can't win a title in AEW, but that's Blackpool Combat Club going up against Blackpool Combat Club. Kind of, to my knowledge, to me, this absolutely makes no sense at all, but who knows? They could throw us a curveball. Or in Jericho's case, they could throw a fireball in your face because we're a wizard.
Yeah.
Or he's a wizard. Tony Khan's a wizard, man. I don't know.
Tony Khan's a wizard. Chris Jericho is a wizard. How many wizards are there, Harry?
I don't know, Haggard. You tell me. But yeah, it was a kind of weird thing to have as a main event, but NJ beats Ruby Soho. There's not really much that we can talk about that.
Well, it's how Anna Jay even beat Ruby Soho that's like the interesting topic of discussion because Ruby, her cast came off, and Anna Jay used it to help her get the win. She hit it underneath the the Queen Slayer to essentially choke out Ruby Soho.
Right. Huh. Tell ya, man. And Anna Jay, ever since aligning herself with Jericho Appreciation Society, has been seeing more, more
Yes,
matches and
and
more
so
of the light today. It's kind of
that's the
sad.
thing too. Is technically now she is referring to herself as Anna JAS. So
Right. It's kind of sad because they're really trying to keep the Dark Order together, but it just uh, I don't believe half of what they said in
I was
Rochester, to
gonna
be
say,
honest
I
with you.
think
I think they're really trying to break it up, to be honest with you, and it's sad.
well, see, that's another thing too, is they really should just have Dark Order go their separate ways because,
I agree.
like, you know, I like for for the sake of like wanting to honor Brody Lee's like legacy, I can understand why they're keeping them together, but at the same time I look at it as like, no man, you really should just let Dark Order like go and ride off into the sunset because it's not going anywhere. Especially in the case of like Evil Uno. Like
Right.
if anything, well, especially now that Stu Grayson is no longer in AEW, like you really should just let Evil Uno go off on his own.
Stu
Like
Grayson's
be
not in AEW anymore?
no,
Really?
he was he was let go from his contract a while ago. But yeah, like it just goes without saying that like a lot of the people that we knew from Dark Order are no longer really even in Dark Order
Yeah,
anymore.
I
Because
was.
like for instance, Colt Cabana, I'm pretty sure he's gonna start doing his own thing in Ring of Honor once Ring of Honor starts back up again.
Right.
Alan Angels, another one that was released from his contract in AEW. He's I want to say he's now gonna start being in Impact, but I could be wrong. So far he's only ever had that one-off open challenge against Speedball for the X Division title. But
Honestly, if I'm Tony Khan, this is a nice topic of conversation too, like, because we have a little bit of time. I would probably say, 10, you could probably push to be like a big star because he has that potential as such.
yeah,
I think you could just take the mask off of him, like kind of like what you did with Alan Angels. Like you don't need to have
take the
him.
mask off of him, and even well, let's not forget to mention about John Silver and Alex Reynolds. Like, remember
Like
initially they
like
had the masks on, and
yeah,
they're just
get
so much better without the
get
mask.
them like have them like go up in like the tag team division itself because they are one hell of
Yes,
a tag
I was
team
gonna say
together. They have great chemistry.
let Silver and Reynolds branch off from Dark Order. Let them be their own tag
As far
team.
as Evil Uno, I just don't think that or you could honestly
Better yet, send them back to Ring of Honor.
no, honestly, I just thought about this. This is what you could honestly do with the Dark Order. You keep Alex Reynolds, um, John Silver, and Evil Uno together as a trio, and possibly could be in a
Oh yeah,
tournament for the trios tag
that
team
could work.
titles
That could
because
work.
technically they are a trio,
Yes.
or you have Adam Hangman Page team them up with Alex Reynolds and John Silver, and then you can have them go after the trios tag team titles.
I mean, either way, you have options with the Dark Order.
Yeah, you do. So as far as that, this is going to conclude this episode of No Final Bell. Make sure to follow us down below at Tinkle Sports and Tinkle Sports. Of course, our channel is Tinkle Sports and Entertainment. We have Out of Turn 4 every Tuesday at 5. This show every Wednesday at 5. Sunday morning, Tinkle will be coming back later this month. So definitely look out for that. And also, I don't think Tinkle Talk's happening at this point, so I'm not going to be promoting it anymore. I haven't seen anything about it. I haven't heard anything about it. Um, but as you know, the two shows that are happening right now are Out of Turn 4 and No Final Bell until Sunday Morning Tinkle does come back. When football season is officially, back up and going, end of preseason into the start of the regular season. So definitely be looking out for that. As always, everyone, we will see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.